Hi everybody, my name is Tom Horvath, and the name of this YouTube station is Pro Paint and Body. Now you may have seen me in our CSI channel where we make polishes and waxes for the car care industry, but this channel is going to be completely different. This channel is directed and focused in the restoration automobile trade, and that is the name Pro Paint and Body. It's based on a book that a buddy and I wrote called Pro Paint and Body way back in 2001. I owned a body shop and had for many years at that time, and all we did was restoration work. My buddy Jim, who was a really good writer, and I don't want you to think that I'm much of a writer. I'm not. I'm a body shop guy. I'm a car sprayer, dent fixer, car restorer, and I love this trade. So I want to go through the ins and outs on what I have enjoyed over the last 40 plus years in the restoration automobile trade. What we have here is a 1957 Corvette, and we are going to go through this car head to toe in a 15-week series on how to properly restore an automobile. My background started in the production trade. My dad had a body shop, and for whatever reason, I wanted something more than just production. I love production. One, you have to be very efficient to make any money. My dad supported 6 kids, me included, and my mom, and all the toys that you could ever want, snowmobiles, motorcycles, all that stuff, having a production body shop. But for me, by the time I was 18, I had already restored a couple cars for myself, and I just enjoyed the process. It's completely different than the production trade, and my dad thought I was absolutely insane for even wanting to play in this business. I graduated from a high school, Crestwood High in Manaway, Ohio in 1978. We went through a really bad winter, and I had an opportunity to travel to California on a motorcycle at 18 years old, soon as we graduated high school. And once I saw California and all these crazy unique cars that weren't common to me in Ohio, I told my dad, I want to move there. I want to move there and apply this newly found trade in the auto body industry called restoration that I was really just playing with. I don't think I was, I definitely wasn't very efficient at it, but it was something that I passionately loved. From metal finishing and lead work to spraying, then it would have been lacquers and acrylic enamels, and and just developing a business from this restoration trade. So we are going to go through the process on this 57 Corvette on what it takes to properly restore an automobile. From head to toe, the cost from a labor side. I'm probably not going to talk too much about the cost from an hourly side. That is going to be different all over the country. We in California can demand big prices because we have a lot of these customers, and they're looking for really, really good shops. At Tom's Auto Body, started in 1980, so I moved to California in 1978, worked at a few shops, including this shop that I'm in today. I worked at this shop. Now it's empty and it's just full of our toys, and it's for this YouTube station. We're going to do 15 weeks in this, and if it works out good, we're going to do another 15 weeks. I've got customers lined up from my body shop that want to see their car on camera and the complete process. They always come in, they bring their families, they look at this, they look at that. They've already allocated the money, and it is expensive. I don't want anybody to believe that this is an inexpensive undertaking. This is a very, very expensive. One, I want to make a profit. And two, I want to guarantee everything that we do for the life of that car to that customer. We don't guarantee it to anybody else but that customer. But anything that we do is 100% guaranteed as long as that customer owns the car. Now, that being said, and having been doing this forever, these customers marry these cars. They never, ever sell them. Not very rarely, or not very often. It is very rarely that anybody ever sells a properly restored car. They want it to be part of the family. They want to hand it down to their kids. If you're dealing with customers who want to flip cars, you're never going to get the money you need to properly restore. So we're going to talk about that. I want that side of this business to be totally exposed. What's it take for paint material? And then what's the cost of that paint material? We're going to talk about that. Should I cut corners on paint material? Absolutely not. It will come back and bite you right in the hind end if you do that. So we're going to talk about all those details. And this particular video, the very first, this is the introduction to Pro Paint and Body. This is a all original paint, never been touched, 1957 Corvette. So I thought this would be a fun project to show you what it's going to take. How are we going to strip the paint? Now the next video, you're going to see this car completely disassembled. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts, washers, what parts I have CAD plated, what parts I have powder coated. How do you charge for that? How do you get enough money to do all that? You better get enough money because you'll be out of business if you don't get enough money to do all that. And if you're a customer looking to have this done, you're going to agree with me if it's a car you want to keep. If it's a car you just want to get in and out of as cheap as possible, well, maybe there'll be some things in here that I'll be able to explain to you. But this is really for professional, super high-end restoration work. When I started my business in 1980, I don't know that, I didn't know that it would explode. One, I was young. And I just had this desire to work on cars like this, Porsches, Ferraris, Maseratis, Lamborghinis. There was just so many of these kind of cars compared to what we were dealing with rust work on brand new cars back in Ohio. And that's okay, but if you're dealing with rust work on one of these, why? Why would I want to deal with the kind of rust work that I had to deal with on a car back there when I'm going to spend $100,000+ on this car? I want to find a car that's coming from a dry climate. And that would be what we had here in Southern California. So I started my body shop, and we had a couple Panteras in my shop, and I cannot wait to tell you the stories. I mean, maybe every video I'll tell you one story. And this will be this story. This will be this crazy, crazy story of the launching of Tom's Auto Body. Now, granted, I'm 19 years old at the time. I'd already been in California for probably a year and a half, worked at many shops. And this would be the last shop that I would work at before we opened 2 shops. So by the time I was 20 years old, I had 2 body shops to house all the cars. Luck, I don't know. I don't know how this quite works. But I love the Bible verses where it says all things work together for good for those that love God according to His plan, His purpose, all of that stuff. I love that verse because I didn't know how that would apply to me. I mean, you know, I was born and raised, went to church, but how is that going to apply to me? How is that verse going to apply to me? And I'm going to tell you a story on how it did. So I start my body shop, and we start working on these cars. All of a sudden, the guy who had probably 2 or 3 Panteras in my shop, which was a crazy rare car to see in 1979, to see Panteras, I was like, wow, these are cool. They're kind of a muscle car, Italian car. So a little bit of Italian, flair to it. The sharp lines and hard body panels, real straight sides. But then a 351 Cleveland engine from Ford. So it was a strange mix. Fun to drive, do burnouts really easy, had a lot of power. But I had a few cars in there. And we were starting to do more and more of these cars. There's more and more customers were coming in. And that customer ends up going to jail for murder. Now I'm like, oh no, I just started this body shop. And that happened. Well, another guy who does even more Panteras than my original customer, who I had no dealings with at all, saw that I was doing cars for the guy who went to jail, and he called me. His name was Gary Hall. And he says, and he was a bit brash with me to tell it was, but he would become a great, great friend. He knew what he wanted to get done, and he didn't know that I could do it. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know that I could do it. Didn't know much about Panteras at all, but we would become experts in Panteras. And we did more Panteras than anybody else has ever done to this day. This one car that we did over and over and over again, because my customer would wreck it all the time, was a candy brandywine, all gold plated Pantera called Pure Gold. And it was a buddy of mine, George Peliquin. But getting back to the Gary Hall story, Gary Hall saw that we were doing them. He came into my shop. He said, if you do a good job, I'll give you more work. That's all he said. We did that one car. Within the next week, I had 25 Panteras at my pleasure of working on, all different parts and pieces of restoration and collision. That would cause me to buy a special frame machine that measured Panteras perfectly. We developed the spec sheet for the whole overhead cam system for measuring a Pantera. And that was all developed at Tom's Auto Body. Every part of that was developed at Tom's Auto Body. We had a rotisserie for flipping Panteras over so we could do the bottoms and the tops. But I had a lot of Panteras. Now this would definitely give me some money to grow my business and pull my hair out, learning how to work on Panteras. Panteras are prone to rust, especially if they come from back east. And we were putting complete engine compartments together, lots of rocker panels. They have a 3-piece rocker panel underneath them, lots of crashed Panteras, straightening the frame, straightening the bodies, and then putting these monster motors in. And because Panteras weren't made for these 500-600 horse motors, when that would happen, the customer would take, and I remember a candy blue Pantera that we did for one gentleman, and he put this monster NASCAR motor in it, and he took it out, hot rodding it, and it totally collapsed the left rear quarter panel. It sucked it in. It flexed the body so much that it sucked the quarter panel right in, ruining a very, very expensive candy blue paint job. So he had to bring it back in, and we had to strip the whole car down and redo it on him, not on us. But all of that would lead to some reinforcing for Panteras. We are going to talk all about the restoration trade. So I'm glad you joined us. Please, if you like what you hear, hit the like button. I want to grow this station. We're going to talk about our polish, our wax, the paint that we're going to use, the sandpaper we're going to use, the kind of spray gun, the longboard sanders, vacuuming systems for sanding the cars. We have a lot of really, really cool products. A lot of sponsors are joining in they want to see their products aired on camera. I hope that we're going to get a lot of viewers on YouTube here. So just, make sure you like us if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, tell me. Tell me what you want to hear. But I want to go through what has made this trade so unbelievable for me. And that verse that comes to mind all the time, that all things do work together for good for those that love God according to his purposes. So, thanks again for joining in. And the name of this YouTube station is Pro Paint and Body. Thanks again, guys. Bye.